What's up guys, welcome back to Destiny Updates. Game Informer just released a video interview with Lars Bakken, Destiny's competitive multiplayer design lead. Considering he's the competitive lead, this interview is of course focused on the competitive multiplayer. His answers are quite vague on a lot of topics, but there was a bunch of interesting things in there, as well as a few solid facts like fireteam size and voice chat details towards the end. I'm gonna try to keep this video from getting too long, so let's get into it. First, he talks about how we bring our same character, our Guardian, into every mode in the game, and how cool that is. But then he says that they don't tie it up into too much fiction either. They make the game really fun, the game that they want to play, and then they try to work it into the fiction as well. After that, he talks about how they're balancing the competitive, considering that you will be bringing in weapons from other game modes. Unfortunately, he doesn't really say how exactly they're going to do it, he just says that they've got some really cool things going on behind the scenes to make sure it all works. So we just have to trust that their system works properly. But they are of course aware of it and have something in place, so that's good. And then after that, he was asked about the possibility of nerfing a weapon in competitive if necessary, and he said he would never rule out that possibility. However, he says they have some systems in place where, theoretically, if something is really good at one point, it could grow to become less good over time. And that was a quote. It's hard to say what that means exactly, so I figured a quote was best. But yeah, he wouldn't go into details, although it sounds like they've got some sort of dynamic system to somehow gradually devalue a weapon if it's overpowered. At least, that's what I gathered from it. The next thing they talked about was very interesting. Game Informer asked if the pace of competitive multiplayer was faster than Halo. Lars answered saying it's definitely faster. In terms of killing people and finishing a conflict, it's much quicker. Apparently, if you, surprise your opponent, or they're not really ready for you, you can take them down quite quickly. And that's not including using a heavy weapon or super. Just your primary assault weapon alone will do a bit more damage than we're used to from Halo. When asked why they've gone this route, he basically said that quickly resolving the combat is fun and satisfying. And then says that it's not always that fast. Good players will still be able to get away some of the time. But it's going to be a bit harder than in Halo. Now that's something I'd like to get your opinion on. Do you prefer faster combat, like, Battlefield or maybe Call of Duty? Or do you like slower, drawn-out fights like in Halo? I personally have mixed feelings on it. I do kind of agree that quick combat is fun and engaging, but I also really like how in Halo combat was drawn out more. It was a little tougher to get kills. Anyways, let me know what you think. Moving on, Game Informer asked about Destiny's approach to health. Lars said that this stuff is really subject to change, but at the moment there's health and armor. As your armor gets eaten through, your health will follow, as you'd expect. If they hold to this format, then I wonder what happens after engagements. In Halo, your shield recharged, and in modern military shooters, your stamina and health regenerate. Will our armor in Destiny somehow repair itself? That's definitely something I want to know. Anyways, back to the interview. He says it is slightly dependent on your class, and that the Titan is a tiny bit harder to kill, although it's almost inconsequential in multiplayer. But then he says that the classes each have interesting attributes, which you can upgrade as you go along. An example he gave for the Titan is that one attribute you can unlock is resistant while sprinting. Now the fact that a Titan is only ever so slightly stronger than the other classes does seem odd to me. I mean, he's clearly covered in heavy plate type armor. Shouldn't he be far stronger than a Warlock that is almost completely cloth? It certainly seems odd. But then again, he said they're making the game fun and awesome first, and then making it make sense later, which I think is a cool approach. After that, he talks about how he wants players to be able to tackle combat from a variety of different ways. So he says we've got three-dimensional options as well. The example he gave is that you could take the stairs to get to a higher level, or you can take a shortcut and double jump through a hole that's blown open. Continuing on, Game Informer asked how the maps compare to Halo's. Lars said he hopes people will recognize the sort of Bungie style and get a similar vibe, but he doesn't feel that's necessarily a Halo thing, more of a Bungie thing. He also mentioned that one of the maps that the Game Informer guys got to play on had some dynamic thing that was constantly changing the lines of sight in a cool way, which sounds interesting. Moving on, Game Informer asks what happens if someone plays loads of competitive and then finally goes into the story mode. Does the difficulty scale with them, or can they just rush through it? Lars didn't really answer that directly, but he kind of veered off and said that they want you to move around the different game modes quite a lot, and there's going to be incentives to make you want to do that. So basically they don't want you to only experience competitive, or only play the story. Although I'm sure you can do that if you want, there's going to be good reasons to try out the other modes. After that, he was asked about the customability of playlists in Destiny, and more specifically, if it would be theoretically possible to turn off things like supers for specific game modes. Lars said that everything is possible, and that the playlist system is very robust, allowing them to make changes much like they could in Halo. Depending on what it is exactly they want to change, it could even be faster and easier than it was in Halo. So I think that's quite cool. Hopefully we'll see a wide range of awesome playlists, and of course get new ones based on feedback after launch. Next, he gives some solid info on voice chat. Due to the fact that players can so easily ruin your experience, especially in co-op activities I'd think, in Destiny they're only going to enable voice chat within your fireteam. So you will not be able to hear players outside of your fireteam unless you invite them in, or you could invite them to a party chat using the built-in systems on Xbox and PlayStation. Now, while talking about this, he does say that they allow up to 6-player teams. So that right there seems like confirmation that the max fireteam size is 6. Although I believe it's still 3 for story modes and probably strikes, but competitive multiplayer will allow up to 6. That does raise some questions for me though. 1, does that mean that the max player count for a multiplayer game would be 12? 6 per team? Or can you have a team larger than 6, but simply not have more than that in your group? It seems a bit odd to me, as a max player count of 12 is honestly lower than I'd like. Another possibility could be having more than 2 teams in a game. I guess that might work. Anyways, the next thing that makes me wonder is how many players will raids have? They've been saying that raids will require more players than strikes and story stuff, so does that mean 6 players? I would think so, as it doesn't seem like a raid would work very well with 2 different fire teams. But going back to the voice chat thing, I think that sounds fine honestly, especially since we'll be able to communicate a bit via emotes anyways. He ends the video by saying how much he's looking forward to people getting to play the beta, and then emphasizing that this is just the beginning. Even after the game launches, there's still a lot of time, obviously at least 10 years if the game does well, for them to keep doing more and expanding the world. That's basically everything from the interview. Real quick before I go though, my friends over at DestinyDispatch.net, a cool community site, are launching a project called Become Legend, where they want to create a collection of fan stories. So if you have any interest in writing a short story to potentially get into their ebook, check out the link below for more info. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, leaving a like is always very much appreciated. Remember to leave a comment and let me know what you think about the faster paced combat. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next update.